All right, so your assignment was to watch The Social Dilemma. So just a few things about how smartphones have impacted the way that we act, the way we perceive things, the way that society is structured, the way you interact with your friends. And you can just see from this picture here, so two people are at dinner and they're not talking, they're just looking at their phones. And I'm sure you've seen this everywhere. So first of all, this annoys me. This is like my own thing. There's this expectation that you'll be available almost 24/7 and ought to reply quickly. So if you put your phone down, you put your phone away, people think there's something wrong if you don't get back to them in 3 hours. There's a greater expectation for you to be on call for your employer. A lot of professionals out there have their bosses calling them at night, asking them to bring them certain briefs or reports. And the expectation is that you'll get this message no matter where you are. You know, you could be on vacation, but you're going to still have access to your emails. People expect you to check your messages or texts. And society is structured so that you must have a smartphone to function. For example, you have to buy this app and have a smartphone to talk to your teacher, to your kid's teacher. And then here's another way that your smartphone impacts your daily life. What it does is it constantly interrupts you. And what happens is when you're interrupted, you have to shift your attention. So what is called multitasking, a lot of times isn't really multitasking. What you're doing is you're shifting your attention back and forth. And there's a cost to that. There's a task where you shift back and forth actually takes longer than if you just focused on the task. And the attention shifting itself creates a sense of disease and anxiety instead of this sort of restful contentment, being constantly interrupted. And even having just even the feeling of being on call or having those expectations on you is stressful. And then it turns out there are fewer moments when we just get to be and do nothing other than enjoying the moment. Many of us feel like as soon as we have a second to just sort of unwind, to relax, a few moments in between activities, instead of just allowing that space to be there, we have to fill it up with stimulation from our phone. So we pick up our phone and start scrolling when we have some downtime. And as human beings, we just really need those in-between moments. Okay, so here's some material from the documentary. So how does social media change and shape your life? So we talked about smartphones and some of the apps on there. But social media, how does it shape and change your lives? So if something is a tool, says this guy, Tristan Harris, it genuinely is just sitting there, waiting patiently. If something is not a tool, it's demanding things of you. So I don't know if you experience this, but do you experience that your phone is demanding things of you? Yeah, I do. It's seducing you. It's manipulating you. It wants things from you, trying to get me to draw my attention away, to go look at some website, to buy whatever. So we've moved away from a tool-based technology environment to an addiction and manipulation use technology environment. And then Tristan Harris says this: social media isn't a tool waiting to be used. It has its own goals and it has its own means of pursuing them by using your psychology against you. So if you read his article about how social media is taking away your free will, then you'll understand this about how social media is using your psychology against you. So in this movie, The Social Dilemma, so it's this Netflix documentary about inhumane technology and social media. So if you have not watched it yet, please do. It's on Netflix, but it's definitely worth a watch. And it's an assignment, so you have to watch it. Social media is a hostile technology in that much of it is designed not to be good for human beings, but it's designed for profitability. And some of you commented on these quotes in the Jared article, that the people designing the software knew what they were doing, that they were going to be getting people addicted, they were going to be using inconsistent reinforcement in order to hook people even more, and that their end goal was to keep people looking at their screens as long as possible and to manipulate their behavior to push them toward the advertisers who were paying for the service. So they knew what they were doing was manipulative. So, okay, here's some clips about mental health and social media. I will post those on for you to watch later. Yeah, so this is how this new technology that entered in the world actually has come back to bite us. So Tristan Harris again says that we've lost a lot of our coping skills, and this has a huge impact on our mental health. So he says this: we're training and conditioning a whole new generation of people that when we are uncomfortable or lonely or uncertain or afraid, we have a digital pacifier for ourselves that is kind of atrophying our own ability to deal with that. So I don't know if you've noticed this, and I have, as I've given this assignment in the past, that when you feel a negative emotion, that's when you turn to social media. So notice, when do you grab your phone and start scrolling? How do you feel right before? What happened right before? Did something bad happen? Were you just bored? I've definitely noticed that if something negative happens, I'm much more likely to pick up, to go to social media. Yeah, and why is that? Well, this is the way that dopamine works. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical in our brains that when you see something new, you get a little spike of dopamine. So it's basically like if you're in the wilderness and you see some berries, you get this like spike of excitement and feel good when you are like, oh, there's some berries, and you pick them. And then when you eat them, you get another little squirt of dopamine. So, but it's the same thing where the new picture on Instagram or the new video on TikTok does that same sort of thing. Like, oh, look, there's this cool thing. There's this cool thing. When you eat it, you feel good, you get dopamine. You turn to that when you feel bad because dopamine helps you feel better. So it's kind of natural. It makes sense on a biological level that you would turn to something that makes you feel better when you're feeling bad. So, but it just turns out this doesn't help you in the long term, and it keeps you from being able to self-soothe, right? So you turn to media, or the old way people did it was by drinking, drugs, eating disorders, etc. Okay, gambling. What's the social effect of social media? Is it to make people more social? Well, in some instances it does. You can have a group that gets together, but it turns out that it's causing more isolation than togetherness. Here's a study that says the mere presence of a mobile phone can disrupt the connection between two people, leading to reduced feelings of empathy, trust, and a sense of closeness. In a series of studies, researchers found that when pairs of strangers were asked to have meaningful conversations, their ability to connect emotionally was significantly reduced if a mobile phone was present. It was visible. A good argument for just turning off your phones, putting them away when you want to connect with your friends. Yeah, and now there's these really handy things. You can have your phone set to the away mode, and your friends will know you are not available. There's even an automatic message you can program that when you're driving, it'll say, I'm driving right now. I'll get back to you when I can. That way you won't get into accidents. Poignant scene in the documentary where the girl, or I guess she's acting, the movie, where she posts a picture of herself. Someone says that she doesn't look very good. She deletes it and she starts taking pictures, and she starts feeling bad about the way she looks. So, and there are all these statistics about self-esteem and plastic surgery. Back when I was young, we did not have access to immediate feedback about our appearance, except for mirrors, right? So you didn't take a picture of yourself and see the picture right away. You had to wait a few weeks. So, so you just didn't have that, and you weren't sharing them with your friends and getting negative or positive comments. It just was very different. So people had a different perception of their appearance than the way kids do today. So a person's social media usage level significantly predicts their level of neuroticism and anxiety 1 year later. As shown by a long-term study of 11,000 people, 20 to 97. In addition, levels of neuroticism, anxiety predicted later levels of social media use, leading researchers to suggest a positive negative downward spiral linking these two processes. So you use social media, that causes you to be anxious and neurotic, and then you feel anxious and neurotic, you feel bad, so you turn back to social media and use it more. It makes you feel bad, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is a study about plastic surgery. Plastic surgeons have been saying that people have been coming in for plastic surgery so that they can look better on social media. If you have the virtue of techno-social sensitivity, you're going to ask the following questions of yourself and your teammates. Gets right to the point. Is it all right to use people as a means to our ends? So the people that were programming, doing these algorithms on social media, knew that they were manipulating people in order to sell more goods. As we'll see later, according to Kantian ethics, this is very unethical. If our algorithms are manipulating people, then maybe our algorithms are unethical. How is this product going to be used? If it's used as intended, so in the most ideal circumstances, how will this affect people? Right? So even like in ideal circumstances, the light bulb, the printing press has an effect. So even if it's used as intended, what's going to happen? And then also, you need to ask yourself, right? And then to answer the question, will this make people better off, is what does it mean to be better off? What does a satisfying human life look like? What causes people to thrive, feel good, be happy? And those are philosophical questions at base. All right, so I hope that this lecture helped to explain how all these articles hang together. I will be back with an explanation of your term paper.